I still recall welcoming 2020 with bright eyes, looking on, claiming it to be the best year yet. Our family has been personally struggling with many things: sickness in the family, financial difficulties, and our business is hardly holding on. So I was claiming 2020 as my year, the greatest year ever, and a bright year ahead. But little did I know that 2020 will be the year that will not only change me and my family, but the whole world, as we would be facing the greatest pandemic the world would have ever seen. My name is Andrea Gomez. Join me as I recall how the struggles of a global pandemic allowed me to share the joy by seeing Jesus in the least, the last, and the lost, one meal at a time. As I mentioned, just like everyone dreaming of their next big break, I welcome 2020 positively with the brightest of goals and excited enthusiasm. Who wouldn't? We were entering a new decade after all. After years of struggling, I was hoping that 2020 would be a little kinder to me than the previous years. You see, I have been so blessed to be born into a big, happy family full of love, full of joy. I keep thanking our Lord for blessing me into this family, and I promise to never take it for granted. My parents have brought us up so well, always having Jesus in our life and the faith at the center of it all. We had so much joy, love, and happiness growing up, and I was blessed to be equipped with everything that ever mattered in life. But as in all families, it is not always sunshine, rainbow, and happiness. God sends many struggles to those who love Him. In 2019, one of my brothers, Albert, suffered a life-threatening sickness that resulted in him being paralyzed. He suffered a spinal cord compression injury and had 8 titanium screws, a bone graft, and a rod to support his spinal column. It hasn't been easy. It takes time, love, and effort to care for a sick person. We've been dealing with it one day at a time. It hasn't gotten easy, but seeing Jesus in my brother and treating him as our family's greatest treasure is where we draw strength. Since Albert, together with his aches, pains, and sufferings, is able to lift his sickness to God. Indeed, God reserves His greatest battles for His bravest soldiers. So in the midst of all this, we were not financially ready when Albert got sick. Our family businesses were struggling and we were trying our best to keep afloat. And I prayed to God that 2020 will be the year that we would be able to recover and that our financial situation will be better. So it felt like a big scourge when the global pandemic hit and our financial situation only got worse. Albert had to stop taking PT sessions in the hospital for fear of him contracting the deadly virus. Several of my siblings also lost their jobs in the wake of the pandemic, and all the more we struggled. Everyone in the world was struggling. The pandemic was taking lives, and we were all clueless and scared, uneasy and panicking of what was to come. I felt it even more when they started canceling Holy Mass in the churches and we were all to attend virtual masses, which for someone who needed Jesus' real presence in the Eucharist daily, left me sad, lost, and uneasy. There was so much confusion, so much uncertainty in the midst of it all, and I turned to Jesus and asked Him what was to become of us, what was to become of the world now. And as I watched the news, I saw the devastation the pandemic was bringing. Hospitals were overcrowded. Numbers of those infected were rising and people were dying. All I could do was to stay at home, pray, attend Mass online. I was very uneasy thinking that many people out there are risking their lives to save other people's lives. I chanced upon a homily from a Mass I attended online. It hit me and inspired me that even from home, any effort will count. It began when my high school batchmates from Woodrow started raising funds to donate PPEs, medical supplies, and food for frontliners. It gave me the thought that I can tap generous people who are able and willing to donate for a noble cause. My family at the time was operating a food processing business and commissary, but was currently low on production because of the pandemic. I asked my dad if we could employ the commissary to make nutritious meals at affordable prices. We then ran the numbers and he agreed to get his staff to create meals spearheaded by my older brother, Chef Anton. I just thought that I would be doing one batch of giving food to be sponsored by my Woodrow's batchmates. A total of 4,000 meals were sent to 9 hospitals in Cavite and Laguna. I thanked our Lord for giving me and my family the opportunity to contribute and help out during the pandemic. I was already happy that my family was able to help. Little did I know that it would only be the first of many opportunities to help during the global pandemic. Apparently, word got out that our food operations had the capability to produce thousands of meals per day. I would receive calls and requests from individuals, organizations, charities, and corporate entities requesting if we could accommodate their orders and it be donated to hospitals, local government units, depressed areas, and stranded people. In short, all the hungry people affected by the pandemic. I never let any of it get to my head, for I know that God has sent me all these people for me to help those who needed it the most. I realized that there are so many people out there with kind and generous hearts. They're out there, and I was blessed to be in touch with them, for they were truly God sent. A group called Frontline Feeders Philippines would raise money and request us to provide food according to their budget to be distributed to all the hospitals. Another group called Lawyers for Doctors was a group of lawyers who banded together to help doctors by providing meals. While coordinating all of these relief operations, I was also blessed and surprised by Jesus. Since I also had to make money and sustain myself and my family, I saw the opportunity to use my talent and passion in baking to be a community seller. I just posted my baked products online, and I was surprised at how the community loved them. Together with my brother Jose and my mom Emily, we would spread joy to the community with our family recipes and baked products. Surprisingly and unexpectedly, our neighbors were thanking us for providing joy during the trying times of the pandemic. This eventually landed us in getting a huge corporate order to send out joy and to cheer up their employees. This was a wonderful gift and blessing as I saw how simple gestures mean so much to people. At the height of the pandemic, my family was coordinating food relief efforts for many hospitals, both provincial and in Metro Manila. In addition, many big companies were donating raw materials, such as whole frozen chicken from San Miguel Corporation, a truckload of pre-seasoned cut chicken from Jollibee Foundation, cases upon cases of canned luncheon meat and sardines from the Victoria Milling, and sacks upon sacks of rice from Generous Millers. I was honestly so overwhelmed as who were the people were entrusting us with such a big responsibility to feed those who needed it the most. Who were we? We were nobody. But I received my greatest request when I was asked to coordinate with the Philippine Jesuit Prison Service based inside the New Bilibid Prison in Muntinlupa City. Together with the Tanging Yaman Foundation, Simbahang Lingkod ng Bayan, and the Ateneo de Manila University. This ended up in sending more than 200,000 meals to prisoners, volunteers, jail guards, and staff at the New Bilibid Prison. At this point, my brother Jose gave the project its name, Meals of Hope and Mercy. Jose was also very instrumental in getting the logistics through and coordinating all the efforts. Many more generous individuals and groups have since pitched in to help when it was needed the most. They're out there, many generous people who have big hearts to help. More importantly, I realized that each of those hundreds and thousands of meals sent out during the pandemic was a soul, a person who would receive that meal and be nourished by it. And it is in Jesus only, because it is Jesus who are also in each of these people. We were just a simple family who tried to help in whatever way we can with the limited resources we had during the pandemic. We were no more than instruments. Looking back, I am still overwhelmed by the numbers and the meals sent out and the souls that were fed. I never imagined that in my life, that in the midst of the darkest and most challenging times the world has experienced, one would be given the opportunity to heed the call to be of service, to see Christ in others, most especially in the least, the last, and the lost. In the end, it wasn't me. It wasn't my family. It wasn't our talents or our efforts. It was Jesus who fed all those hungry people in need. He just asked us to be the human instruments in His plans. It is also noteworthy that my paralyzed brother Albert was also able to garner donations to provide food for frontliners. Even if he was sick in bed, paralyzed, and was unable to move about, he and his batchmates from Southridge also raised funds to feed those who needed it the most. We are all called to be instruments only if we heed Jesus' call. In the end, life is never what we plan it to be. 2020 wasn't what I expected it to be, because it was so much more. We have plans, but Jesus has always better plans. In the times of darkness, Jesus is truly the light. He uses instruments to share the joy. To share the joy, the light, in the peace. In a world that is riddled with sadness, darkness, and chaos. In the uneasiness and restlessness of our hearts, Jesus speaks, only if we listen. It is truly in giving that we receive. It is when we are weakest that we are strongest because of Jesus. We ought to share the joy, and this joy is incomparable. For the joy we long for has a name and a face, and that is Jesus Christ. Again, I am Andrea Gomez. Thank you for journeying with me.